Good afternoon. You look like an audience, but you look like survivors also, I think. You've endured 2 days of lots of content, perhaps 3. How is everyone feeling? And you were at the party last night also, right? And I was careful to note that no one drank too much, no one got out of hand, and I'm sure you were all in bed by 11 o'clock and you're fresh and ready for an active afternoon session. This is very different, and I've already done, which is unfortunately a problem I have. I've already messed up the plans several times, one of which is to see one of our students, an attendee like you, sitting in a chair and get him by the shoulders, talk to him for a moment, and I'm about to drag him up on the stage. I probably have confused things for our technology group back there. If there are any hiccups, it's my fault, because they're now managing multiple decks, and soon we're going to be doing live optimization, changing things on the fly, and working together with the pages that you've submitted. But before we do, I wanted to invite Tim up. Tim is an example of what it's like when a student comes, pays attention, goes back, applies the principles, and sees a difference. Tim, thank you for being brave enough to walk up here.
Of course.
And I'm just going to get out of your way, tell a little bit about sort of how we first met.
Sure.
And show some of the pages of things that have happened.
Okay. So it was 6 years ago, and I attended my first email optimization summit. And I remember I was sitting there, and I'm listening to Dr. McLaughlin talking about like all these crazy heuristic formulas. And I was like, this is awesome. And it like sparked the inner geek inside of me. And like, I'm one of those guys that like, you know, as soon as he gets a new toy, like I want to rip it out of the package, like as soon as I get out of the store. So I remember we got to the first break in the conference and I called my team and I said, guys, get ready. We're going to change the way we do everything when I get back on Monday. And I was like, you know what? Actually, let's not wait. Let's start right now. And so we were working at the time. So I work with nonprofit organizations. We help them to raise money, and email is a very, very important tool that we use to actually raise those funds. And we were working with the George W. Bush Presidential Center. And I remember I said, give me about like an hour, and I want to like try and come up with a new treatment that we could test. And the emails were actually going out later that day. So we literally phoned in the very first experiment from the floor of the conference.
Now, Tim, I want to pause you right there, because some of you saw one line that we talked about on the first day. How many were in the email certification program? Let me see your hands. I referenced this because at that point I didn't have any idea I'd have Tim come up here, and he literally went back and pulled up the actual emails. So he's going to show those, but it's the same point I talked to you about earlier when I said, you know, a simple change can make a dramatic difference.
And so, you know, this email was working really well. And so sometimes you're afraid of actually breaking things. And so we made one tiny little change. We said that, well, let's start with something small, but let's be, you know, smart about it. So we made one change, and it was to the call to action of the email. And that one change led to a 139% increase in click-through rate. And
show them the change, Tim, because it's so subtle.
It's on the next screen, I think. Here, let me borrow this.
There you go.
Okay. So the one change we made produced a 139% increase in click-through, and it produced a 42% increase in revenue. And at that moment, I was like, I'm hooked. Like, I'm going to spend the rest of my life optimizing things. So I'll blow up the one sentence here. The original call to action read like this: please accept this invitation to stand with President Mrs. Bush by making a tax-deductible online contribution now. I mean, it sounds like a typical, you know, kind of call to action you might make if you're a fundraiser. The optimized version read like this: please accept this invitation to become a charter member of the George W. Bush Presidential Center. And so it's subtle, but it's very profound, the difference that we made in this email. We communicated a stronger value proposition, and it led to a much higher click-through rate, which led to a 42% increase in revenue. And so then we just said, well, let's just keep going. And so we went to all of our clients that we work with, and we started testing. We said, you know, is the goal of the email to sell the donation, or is it to sell the click? And when we started changing how we message people, we saw dramatic increases in the amount of clicks that we would get to our emails. Or in an email like this, like the content of the email, is the email designed to actually sell a donation, or is it to sell a visit to the website? And this one was pretty dramatic: 369% increase in click-through, 121% increase in revenue. Is the goal of the email to actually look like it came from an email machine, or should it look like it came from an actual human being? And in this case, we didn't see a difference in click-through, but the people that clicked through from this plain text version, this Outlook version of the email, were much more highly motivated, 118% increase in donations. And one final example, using the principle of urgency to having an animated countdown clock in the email as we approach the end of year fundraising time. We found that this led to a 51% increase in conversion. So, this was kind of like it really kind of changed the direction and trajectory of my career, having attended the first summit. And so, I'm a lifelong optimizer now.
I appreciate it, Tim.
Thank you.
Thanks, my friend.
Yeah.
Now, he threw that deck together just an hour ago because I caught him by surprise. But isn't it encouraging to see that someone sitting out there just like you could learn these things, go back, apply the principles, and get a result? The whole point of investing those few moments at the beginning of this session isn't to say, the people at Mech Labs and MarketingSherpa are clever, or look what Tim has achieved. The goal is to say that, hey, someone who came just to sort of learn and try and grow latched on to these core principles, applied them in their own scenario, and they're still experiencing dramatic results today. Tim has now a library of over 100 case studies that he's compiled just in the not-for-profit sector, applying these principles and then tracking the results. And I want you to grow and learn the same way. And perhaps the fastest way we can achieve that is to take this last part of our time together and look at your emails that you've submitted, and begin to apply the things that we've been learning together for the last few days. Now, to do that, I'm going to have your help because it's late in the conference. It's in the afternoon post-lunch. This is typically when our energy is lower, and I need you to sort of step it up to help me think, because we're going to move fast. And the more you can help us with, the quicker you can respond, the better you're thinking, the more we can help your peers. And there are two goals here. One is to help the person who had the courage to submit this email or this landing page achieve a dramatic result. But the other is to discover together transferable principles, the sort of principles that you can take back and apply in your own campaigns. Are you ready to do that this afternoon? I may even ask you to break into groups for a few moments on some of these. And so I just want you sort of set, and I want to move right into the very next one. You can switch my decks, John, unless they're already together. Shall I go forward? There we are. This is an email. And let's get right to it. It was submitted by Kelly. Kelly, are you in the room? Let me look. There she is. Let's get a microphone over to Kelly. Kelly, what is the objective of this email?
It's on. Okay. This email is as part of our VIP program. We allow people to do a 90-day love them and wear them guarantee, so they can try out the shoes. If for any reason they don't fit right, they can bring them back and either get a full refund or credit towards the next pair of shoes.
All right, so in the first, those of you that went through the email certification program, we talked about a fulcrum. Remember, there was perceived cost on one side and perceived value on the other. And the first thing we did was look for an area that might be causing an increase in perceived cost. Now, we didn't talk about cost as price, but cost includes mental energy. It might involve anxiety. It might involve friction, someone's adversity to risk, the confusion that would come with not being able to understand. Those are all negatives. On the positive side, when we're trying to add value, it might be the clarity of the value proposition. It might be promising a benefit within the call to action. Those are adding value. So let's start by thinking about the negative, and then we'll think about the positive. And I'm going to ask you to do one thing before we even sort of get warmed up. I have a crew going to help me, and John Powell, who you've heard from on stage, and Joey, who helped build the keynote that I opened with yesterday and works on my speech writing team, are both working together to sort of help accomplish two things. One I'm going to surprise you with, and I can't tell you yet, and the other is to make some live changes on the email that we're going to look at right now. So this is the email. We want to help Kelly. I want to just start by two things. First of all, someone in the room, tell me one thing you might do that would improve the effectiveness of this email. Just lift your hand up. Right there. All right, let's get a microphone, but go ahead and talk till they get there. Segment the list and send to men and women separately if you can do that. Is that the essence? Very interesting idea. Now, here's the next thing I need you to do. I want to break you into a group of not more than 3 people. We tested the optimum size for this. And in 3 people, you're laughing at me over here. Yes, we test everything. It's terrible to live in my house. You can't imagine. You can't imagine. But I'll tell you what I'd like to do is I'd like to get all of you in this sort of group of about 3, and I want you to come up with 3 things you would change. You've only got 3 minutes to do it. That should be enough. So move swiftly, stand up, get with somebody. You can do it with somebody you're seated with, or you can move around the room. It doesn't matter. But let's go ahead, take a moment. Look. All right. We want to cover as much territory as we can in the time that we have remaining. I have a clock ticking up there by the second. I have about 42 minutes, and the faster we go, the more we're going to achieve together. So we're going to pack this last main session with as much content as we possibly can. So from that point and this point onward, let's go very fast. I have a hand up right here. Tell us one change that you would make, the most important of the 3.
Overhauling the creative. First of all, it gives a negative perception, I think, to the consumer in terms of it doesn't make it appealing.
Give me one actual change you would make to make it appealing.
Make it a more positive message overall, shorten the copy, and bring your calls to action to make them more prominent and appealing to the consumer.
All right, thank you. All right, somebody else over here. The most important change you'd make.
Because the ultimate test run promise is in red, and it seems like that's something very important that they want to brand, moving that blue box with the promise to the top as opposed to having that negative message at the top. So you start immediately branding this ultimate test run promise.
All right, so Kelly, where's Kelly at? She submitted this page. So Kelly, we're going to get all of this down. I want you to make a note on every bit, but actually, John is going to start changing the page as we talk about it. John, feel free to start moving it around. We've already sucked your page into our super secret software program. We sold our soul to the devil, and he gave us back this program, and we're going to optimize live. And as we do it, I want you to sort of get the best of these things together, and then we'll follow up with you afterwards to see what you can do in terms of testing and implementation. Okay? Somebody else, quickly, give us some good thoughts. Now, I want to reiterate what I've heard that's positive. The headline is weak. The headline is all caps, which isn't good. The headline has difficult to read rhythm, and this is that shoes-you-hate reject pile. Just take that second line. Skip the first line. If you were to read, shoes you hate, reject pile, what do you gather from that? Not enough. Every single time you ask your customer to make meaning for themselves, you lose customers. That's far too much unsupervised thinking. Make it clear and don't leave it up to them to try and find the clarity. All right? Good. So we need a stronger headline. Somebody else, what is another change you'd make? Right there, yes.
CTA is also, the color of the CTA, it's berry with the other shoes. It's getting blended.
The color of the call to action is the wrong color. I want practical things just like that. It is. The green is lost on the background. And let me ask you a different question. Is the green box a button? Is the other green box a button? Is the blue box a button? That's my point. How do you know until you click on it? Because it looks identical except for the color. And the little arrow in it doesn't tell you enough. They look like 3 calls to action. Because remember, you never have full attention. This is a key for designing your email. The most you can hope for is half of their attention. Yes, if they looked at the email the way you had to look at it to write it, they would see some of the things that you see naturally. But they are not looking at your email. They are just pointing their eyes at it. There's a difference between looking and seeing. They look, but they don't see, because all they do is point their eyes, and they point them away as fast as they possibly can. And do you know why? Because their email box is full of other things that are getting in the way of their time and robbing them of their life. Don't you feel like that when you have to sort through garbage and spam and things that waste? Listen, the older I get, the more precious every single moment is, and I don't want to give one moment to somebody that doesn't deserve the attention. Does that make sense when I'm in my email inbox? All right, good. What else would you do? Somebody else tell me. Yes.
Change the colors of the buttons or shop women's shoes now because the color is too similar to the shoes in the background.
Yes.
Make the shoe background more transparent so the buttons come out in 3 dimensions.
Absolutely. Where's Tim Kachuriak? He may be back in the green room. If you're in here, Tim, wave your hand at me. There he is. Is that Tim? Yes. So, Tim, you did all those emails. You were a student. What would you do to change this thing? Give him a mic. What would you do to improve that email, Tim?
What would I do to improve the email?
On the left-hand side. You think about it. I'll come back to you. Someone else. He just walked in the room. Yes, go ahead.
I think from a subtle perspective, the wood background and the paneling does not make me feel like running. It feels more like a home improvement email, so I think I would change it to something that I would run on.
Interesting. The pictures themselves in the background are confusing. Frankly, I think the picture requires too much mental energy to absorb for an email. I would come up with something much simpler, and it would look closer to rich text, plain text, than it would as ornamental as this particular email does. The ornamental design is getting in the way of the message. And you can see what John is already doing. Do you see how he's taking those paragraphs and creating an eye path through them using bullets and bold font to make it easier to absorb the message? Those are things that also will improve the response of the email. And in his case, and this is something you want to watch for, designers, listen to me, when you move the most important part of your email, that is the call to action, into a different geographical zone. Do you notice that the zone here is a picture zone? You had a message zone where a human being is talking to you, and then you have a picture zone. Do you want them to have to leave zones, change countries before they see the call to action? When you change the zone, you also change the context. When you change the context, you make it harder for the person to understand what you're trying to say or asking them to do. Clarity trumps persuasion. And this zone confusion is creating psychological friction, which we interpret as psychological resistance, which you will receive as mitigated conversion. That's a long way of saying your numbers will not be as high as they should. Okay? Now, I want us to keep thinking about that. And John, I want to move on. Pull up another email. And let me see. I think, is this the Lifeway? I've seen none of the emails except this one. And I haven't looked at it to optimize it. It's coming up. It's called, it's from Lifeway. And I think it's Julie. Are you in the room, Julie? Where are you? Right over there. Somebody get a microphone to Julie. So, this is Lifeway. This is their email. Here's what's cool. We're going to take this email in just a few moments and try and improve it. I want you to break into your groups for a second, and I want you to literally try to redesign it. There's a strong reason why. I'll tell you why. In fact, I'll tell you now. We're going to test this email with Lifeway. We're going to invite everybody here to participate in a clinic online, like a web conference for 45 minutes, where we reveal what happened in this, the changes that were made, and the results. Nothing to do with the live test we're doing. This is just helping someone who submitted their email get a result, and let's do something else. Let's not just talk about the changes that we say you should make. Let's measure and track what happens afterwards and learn from it. Does that make sense to you? So I need you to help me get important changes to this email. They'll keep working on the other one. And John, is there anything I've left out? Good. Let's break into our groups, and let's go to work on it. All right. Let's see what you've got. How many of you think this email can be improved? Let me see your hands. Now, I was moving around the room, and I was impressed with suggestions. I went to the back, and I met some people who are from the Kentucky Derby, and which I think is very apt because these emails are essentially a horse race anyway, one against the other. You've got to see and get yours read and opened. What is the first change you would make? Somebody on the far right in the group, right over there, hand went up. What's the first change you would make?
That image doesn't give me any context.
All right, so the image is wrong. The image is wrong because it doesn't connect. Let me give you a quick principle. This is transferable. You must understand that an image's job is either to seize attention or to support the value proposition. It seizes attention when it controls the eye path and makes your eyes, for instance, I will use an image to draw your eyes through key content. There is a potential third, and that is to set a tone or a mood, but the third is an excuse for a lot of bad choices. A lot of creative people will use the third when they have violated the first and the second. The best thing an image can do is actually communicate the value proposition. We were working with Encyclopedia Britannica, and we learned how to project one research test that doubled revenue, doubled it. One of the things we did is we had an image that showed the entire span of all of the volumes, and that you would get all of them for this low price online digital, and you could see the computer screen and all the volumes behind it, and basically you didn't even have to read the page to understand the essence of the offer. So we got a problem with the image. Somebody else, tell me where you have a suggestion right there.
We would strip out that whole last paragraph right there. It's throwing in way too much information. Really, it should be just boiled down to try the free preview, and then make that more of a button. It looks more like a banner. I don't we didn't really see it as a button at all. And that paragraph is just too much information. Like, who cares that you can build 8 customer studies, blah, 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 and you just want to get them to click through. You get all that information.
Okay, so let's take it to a broader transferable principle. What is the goal of the email? What is it? Tell me. To get a click. Let's say it again. What's the goal of the email? To get a click. Is the goal of the email to sell the product? No, there may be a rare exception, but the product is best sold where it can be sold best, which is the landing page. It's very hard to do a proper sale in the browser. So the goal of the email is to get a click, and any information on this page that gets in the way, that gives you more than you need, is actually costing you conversion rates, because all I need is enough information to make me want to click. Does that make sense to you? So let's talk about something they're doing right, though. And a lot of our emails are not. John, let's change my color. I'm going to go to green. You change it, okay? See, there's a vertical flow, and it leads to a call of action. And the vertical flow is valuable. Do you know why? Because it allows you to control the sequence of thought. You want the page's design to flow in the same order of the thought sequence that overcomes each micro yes and ends up on the macro, which is to click on that button. Does that make sense to you? When your email is all over the map, the eyes are all over the map, and you can't control the sequence of thought, it may come out of order. And the order with which you guide each key understanding, each key development in their thoughts is just as important as the content itself. For example, we illustrated this in the first day. It is perfectly proper in the right time, in the right relationship, for me to walk up to the right person and ask them, will you marry me? There's nothing wrong with that piece of content. It's also not wrong to suggest a honeymoon trip for 3 weeks to Tahiti. It's probably not wrong to talk about the house that you want to live in. But if I were to walk up to this lady tonight at the bar, show her a picture of my house, and ask her if she wants to go to Tahiti, it probably wouldn't be very effective. Would you agree? More importantly, if I fell on my knees and held out a ring and asked her to marry me, I'd probably be in big trouble. We change our content in our test. Instead of realizing the problem isn't the content, it is the order in which we presented it. So the thought sequence can be guided by the vertical flow, and that's a good thing. And that applies to your own emails. They should have a vertical layout. And there's a call to action at the bottom. But what do you think about the call to action? Who thinks it could be better? Let me see your hands. What would you change? Somebody tell us. Get a microphone to someone.
Start my free 2-week trial.
Say it again.
Start my free 2-week trial.
All right. Now, let me ask you, when is that the right answer and when is it the wrong one? Someone tell me when that's the right answer. It might be on the landing page, you're right, but I'm going to go philosophical with you for a moment. It's the right answer when they're ready to start the 2 free-week trial. It's the right call to action. But in the developing thought sequence, when you have just seen this email, are you certain that you have enough information that you're already ready to make the decision to start the 2 free-week trial? If you're not, then it's asking for too much too soon. Does that make sense? And I'm not picking on you. It's just a wonderful opportunity to think about matching the call to action to the exact place they are in their own thought sequence. Does that make sense to everyone? Good. Then let's do this. Somebody give me some alternate ways. Give me some other language for this button right here. Learn more, okay? Or how about learn about our free trial? Or learn about our free 2-week preview. Why could that even be stronger? Someone tell me. Why? Go ahead, right back there. Because more is vague and doesn't help me visualize the payoff in exchange for my click. But a free 2-week preview could be exactly what I want if the rest of the facts are correct. And so learning about that might be just what I'm ready to do right now. It gives me a more tangible reason to click. Does that make sense to you? Look at me and give me good feedback with your head. Nod, because I got to know whether to stop or move on and make sure I'm sort of connecting with you. All right, how many would like to get through a lot more of these? We're going to work on this. John, you've made changes already. You want to show some of the things you're doing right now? Do you have any ready for us to see? All right, so see what John is doing on the right-hand side. Now, by the way, let's just do this before we move, because I think this could help all of us. Let's look at a problem in clarity. If I were to say, what is the number one problem most of you have right now in your email, it is not what you think. It's not a lack of brilliant copywriting. It's not a lack of the right graphics. It's not a lack of understanding about personalization or customization. It is not one of those interesting, sexy things that we go to conferences to learn about. The real enemy that is causing so many of us to get underperforming emails is this one only: confusion. It is the lack of clarity that is killing our conversion rates. And if you'll go back here, listen, you say, but I thought in your first presentation you talked about humanizing emails and making them relational and connecting with people. True. But if you don't know what I'm saying because you're confused, does it matter that what I'm saying is human and personal and relational? No, it doesn't. Because the first and most important principle of all communication is clarity. And the second, when there's any sort of ask involved, is credibility. Those dyads work closely together. So let's back up over here. Custom studies fast. Let's talk about the first problem with that. That's not a headline. It's a riddle. Now, why is it a riddle? Why is it a riddle? Because you got to think to figure out what they mean. It's not a complete sentence. A good headline, listen, is a complete sentence. It's not a description. A good headline is not a description. A good headline is not a title. And a good headline is not a magical sentence that doesn't have subjects and predicates. A sentence has a subject and a predicate. Fast, if you were in proper English at advanced levels, has an assumed subject. You don't do any assuming in an email. You must make it clear. So the first problem with this headline is it is not a sentence. I want red. This headline should be a sentence. Let me tell you another problem. It should probably have a subheader because it's easier to move them to the body copy when you give them one more level. And the subheader's got bigger text than the body copy, smaller text than the headline. It's a deadly combination. In addition to that, it shouldn't be above the content. It's lost up here in banner blindness. The image is in the wrong place and the headline is in the wrong place. Now, it's important for you to see this, and I want to move on, but the principles here are too important for us to ignore. Look at the next headline. Somebody tell me, this subheader, what is wrong with this one? What's wrong with this one? Okay, I'd say that's a second-tier problem. It's accurate, but give me a first-tier problem.
It's not related to the content at
The
all.
meaning isn't there again. We've got a meaning problem, the same as we had at the headline. What does this mean? If you're serious about discipleship, that makes two of us. Excuse me? Who's the other guy? Our biggest problem in copywriting is we somehow think that we have clever turn of the words, it's going to improve results. No, it just impresses our colleagues, which has very little to do with improving results. Say something to me clearly that I understand and that matters to me. Give me meaning. If you don't give me meaning, you haven't given me a message. If you don't give me a message, I'm not going to respond. This is too much work to figure out what this email is trying to say. Does everyone understand this? And the brave person, Julie, that submitted this, Julie, we know that you didn't write it. We know that someone else wrote it. And I hope that I'm not being too hard on you. But what we're going to do is take these changes. We're going to redesign this email. We're going to share it with you. We'll give you a link later. Let you find out what happens after we run a test in about a month. And we can cut through all the hype. Because I'm going to tell you something. Just because I'm wearing a suit and standing on the platform doesn't mean I know anything. You know who knows everything that we need to know? The customer. The customer. My father said a PhD stands for a posthole digger. And he said an expert is just an ordinary man away from home. The experts that we need to consult aren't the ones standing up here, it's our customers. What I'm doing is drawing on experience to draw out of you the best pattern recognition that we can, an attempted customer wisdom, which we will form into a hypothesis, which is the new page, and that new hypothesis represented to that page should be tested. And let's let the customer teach us something. Does that make sense? Because now I'm going to go very fast. We're not going to be changing on the fly. We're going to move through pages. I'm going to double my pace. Can you handle if I speak faster? And will you talk faster, raise your hand faster, and let us do more pages faster? When we're done, let's just pant our way across the finish line, and then we can break into our group for the second half of the day. To do that, I'm going to, actually, I'll stay up here where I can mark on the board for a moment, but I want to go to a new page, and let's be ready with your hands, because I'm going to ask for a lot of feedback. Let's go. I haven't seen these. Let's take the, okay, so this is University of Florida. They have representatives here, and they're doing some interesting work with us right now. We're very impressed and very pleased to do the work that we're doing together to think about how we improve education in this space. But let's stop for a second, because this is one of their own emails. It was submitted. It's got a need for optimization. How many of you think this looks like an email? If you were looking at this and I didn't tell you, would you believe it was an email or a landing page? When your email looks like a landing page, that's a pretty good sign you're in trouble. You don't land on an email. An email is the way I talk to you to get you to come visit my house, and the landing page is my house. And so the first problem we have is we have a landing page which is doubling as an email. But here's the point. If you can sell me in the browser, what do you need the landing page for? And you can't sell me in the browser, and you do need the landing page. So let the landing page be a landing page, let the email be an email. What's one change you would make to this as an email? Let me see your hand. Quickly, someone. Boom, right there, yes.
Include a call to action.
Include a call to action. Okay, really? What made you think of that? Okay, so, and I mean this respectfully, but what are we supposed to do when we read this if it isn't clear? By the way, when that call to action isn't vertically laid out beneath what you're asking me to do, and it's over there somewhere on the side of the page, I'm often not sure which call to action I should respond to. And in this case, it looks like there is what? Is this the call to action? Okay, scroll back up. I would still say they need a call to action. Okay? Because let's just take it for a second like this. Go up. Here's the zone. Scroll down. Joey, stop. Wait, there's a call to action right there too. Scroll down. Let me see that. Scroll up a little bit, Joey. Joey, can you somehow split the difference? There's slides. Try again. Boom. Okay, that's it. They've got a call to action. You have a good point. We couldn't see it. Okay? What do you think about the call to action? Is that the right wording on it? Okay, let me ask you a question. How many of you are interested in downloading? That sentence is called a point last sentence. What you can get is your program brochure. What I'm after is brochure, and the brochure is not really what I'm after either. I'm after something that will communicate to me the information I need. If the first word in your call to action is download, are you offering me or are you threatening me? Because what you're telling me is, I've got to do something here, and it's company-centric logic instead of customer-centric logic. Get that button to say something like, get the information you need now. Get your free, and give it a sexier name than program brochure. How many of you woke up and said, my God, a program brochure is what I need today? I'm going to go to the MarketingSherpa Summit, and hopefully they'll pass one of those out free. If not, maybe they're selling them in the booths in the back. Let's take that for an example. There's a whole room full of sponsors out there. How many of you would rush to a sponsor in that room if we said, hey, if you are one of the first 10 people to get to our Maripost, our platinum sponsor, they will give you your free program brochure? How many of you run to do it? So we've got a problem with the words on the button. And let's figure out how to make that call to action stronger. Someone else, what else would you do in this email? Quickly, quickly. Hand up. Right back there, I see a hand.
The headline, the basic value proposition needs to be something like fast track your career with a top business degree or something like that.
Interesting. Okay, so the headline, go back up to the top. Let's look at the headline. What is it right now? Reputation matters in business. Build yours with a top-ranked business degree. Interesting. So what is the implied reason? How many were in the lecture on mental levers? Okay? What is the mental lever that you think they're trying to pull here? What is underneath that word? What is the reason they're giving you to interact with them? Reputation. To have more credibility and a greater reputation. Okay? Let me ask you a question. How many of you think that is necessarily, absolutely, without even testing, the most important mental lever to pull to get a response from a prospective student? My voice is going, do you notice? It's not from here, it's from the party last night. I kept having to yell to people to put their clothes back on and get off the stage, and it was really, really embarrassing. You know, laughter like that doesn't really help my cause. I'm just teasing you. So guys, the first thing I would question is that the right mental lever to pull? Remember we talked about levers? What's another lever for education? How many of you have a degree? Somebody tell me the main reason you went to get a degree, what really appealed to you and why you did it. Raise your hand up, anybody that wants to give me an answer to that. Right over there, what is it?
To get hired.
To get hired. Excellent answer. And I'm sure that's one of the levers they may pull somewhere else, but to get hired is an excellent answer. Can somebody give me another reason? What is it? For money. Apparently, his father offered him money if he went to college. Anybody else? Yes, right over there. To become an expert in their field. Now, what I'm trying to help you see right now is that we can talk about the design and the layout, and there are problems here, but the first thing I would start with is the ultimate reason implied in this email for you to interact with what comes next. And if the ultimate reason isn't clear in the first 4 inches of the email, forget whatever is said afterwards, because it doesn't matter. I'm looking for the ultimate reason as expressed in the first 4 inches, in the first 7 seconds of that email. Does that make sense to everyone? So I would start by saying, hey, there are 3 more categories we should be testing in the messaging of this email. All right, does anybody see a problem in the blue area with the copy? What would you say is a problem? Somebody raise your hand up if you see a problem. Yes, right there.
There's just too much of it in the visual path. You don't know really where
There
you're
is no
supposed to
visual
go.
path. The paragraph is too long. Don't make your paragraphs and emails longer than 3 sentences. Use bullet points, make it easy to see, use bold. And by the way, reverse text, white on blue is a terrible choice. I know the brand guidelines, UF has orange and blue, but I don't think they're against white because they're using it somewhere on the page. Let's just reverse it. There's got to be a better way to put that text on the page and make it viewable. Okay? Something else. Let's scroll down a little bit. Wait a second. Look at the top 4 inches of the page. How much heavy lifting is it doing for us? Let's just go from the orange, forget the headline, but take the space at the top of the page. Let's think about what I get from this. That there's somehow a connection between palm trees and a prayer tower or a watchtower or maybe, I don't know, the longer I look at it, the more I feel like I'm smoking weed. Not that I've ever smoked weed, particularly in Vegas, and as you know, I'm a distinguished whatever. Seriously, guys, you know, there's a point to the humor. Kierkegaard wrote his thesis on irony, and Camus, the great philosopher who said the principal problem of philosophy is suicide, spoke about absurdity. One of the most important ways for me to help you to learn is to point out absurdity. Do you follow me? When you start to laugh at it, you might be learning something. It's not just a matter of clever words to say to keep you entertained. I want you to understand that it's absurd to waste that much space at the top of an email saying nothing when you've only got a split second to compete with everything else in the inbox. And so I resort to humor as a technique to shift your thinking. It's like a tilt in the paradigm. And I could continue, but how many of you think that some of these changes could help this email and we can move on and look at something else? Are you liking the live up? Is this helping you? Are you ready to move on to the next one and give us more suggestions and help more people and learn? Then I'm going to take that as a yes. Let's go. All right. So special invitation, culinary demonstration, including a food tasting. And look, the food's been approved by the Better Business Bureau. That is good to know, because you know, I don't eat anywhere the Better Business Bureau doesn't tell me is a good place to eat. Okay. It's really late. Forget what I said about philosophical reasons for humor. I think I'm just tired. Somebody tell me, what would you do? Give me the top 3 things you'd make right here. Yes.
I would move the Better Business Bureau and those supporters or partners to the bottom.
Yes.
Because I think being on the side, it doesn't make it look like a special invitation. It makes it look like an ad.
Actually, it makes it look like a special invitation for the Better Business Bureau. I'm serious. What's the logo? What's the first thing? You know where your eyes start, the page upper left. What's the first thing you see? You see the Better Business. Oh, wait a second. Did you submit the page? Somebody's waving their hand. Oh, you have an idea? An idea? Well, get that microphone. She looks desperate to tell us. She's back in the back, shaving her. Tell us. Go ahead.
I don't see a pre-header.
No.
So the first thing in the email is special invitation, and I don't see a brand or a pre-header.
There's no way to understand actually who this is coming from, and it actually looks like a letter from the Better Business Bureau, and apparently it has something to do with wine and a bib. You laugh, but if you go straight left, what are you going to see? Feed the children. I've had 3. I know about that bib. Should be a car seat in there somewhere, and I'd go right away. All right, so this email is falling prey to the same problem that I suggested our other emails are falling prey to. What is the principal problem with the email? Confusion. It's too hard to make meaning. And remember what I said. I'm not seeing your email. I'm just pointing my eyes at it for the least amount of time possible. You got to do something to smooth me from looking to seeing. And if you don't take those first few seconds to intensify the energy that I'm going to invest, all you get is a drive-by email shooting. Boom. All right, let's move to the next. We don't have to cover all of it. By the way, just go back a second. I was having so much fun with the call to action, yes. What's interesting to me is if you click here, you'll be able to have a free visit to the Wyndham also. 3 days, 2 nights, exclusive package brought to you exclusively by Viva Resorts. And then their first call to action says, click here. By the way, when you put a call to action together, use words that promise value in exchange for the action, and start with the value, not with the cost of the action. How many of you are moved by the words, click here? It's like, I don't know what the thinking behind it is they're probably confused by this terribly confusing email, and they don't know what to do, so we'll just yell at them very loud in all caps, click here! And that way you don't even have to worry about what it says. You just know that's what to do, because basically, people are sheep. Just tell them to click. And you need something here in exchange for the click that makes it worthwhile. And what is that red arrow? You know what that line is for? It's a fence to crawl over. Why give them an extra barrier, an extra obstacle? It is called a separator. Do you want a separator from your customer? Do you want a separator in the midst of your dialogue with them? No. And I can't stress you enough that when I say this with empathy, because we've tested 1 billion emails, and I've written some of the dumbest emails in captivity. I've seen these mistakes. Every single thing I'm trying to tell you not to do, I've probably done it at some point. I remember when we first started designing these things in Microsoft Front Page, and that was the program to have. And then my friend, raise your hand, Cliff. Cliff's with me. Take a look at the big, tall guy in the back, because I met him in a fight. How long ago, Cliff? 30, 40? 30 years ago. As longer than that, Cliff. 33 years ago. We met in a fight. And afterwards, we became friends, and we started doing a lot of training together. And he's been working with me ever since. And here he is at the summit. This is the first summit he's ever come to, because he has a lot of other responsibilities. And Cliff remembers the oldest days in the research lab, because he was like employee number 1. And I was designing in Microsoft Front Page some experiments, and he got a hold of Dreamweaver, and I thought he was a snob because he could do stuff in Dreamweaver I couldn't do in Front Page. And by the way, it was in Front Page that I started putting separators. That's what they were called. And research indicated a lot of things to me, one of which is separators are a very bad thing to do in the middle of a message. You stop my eyes, you tell me not to go further, or you tell me what comes next is disconnected from what came before. So simple things like that little red line can hurt your conversion rate. Okay? Let's move on. Quickly, another email. Still time to book your ski trip. Somebody tell me, what's one change you'd make to this email? All right, make it a sentence. It's almost a sentence. There is still time is better. I think still time is almost there. Although, thinking about my employees, they probably spell it S-T-E-A-L, because a bunch of them are leaving from here, literally from here to go snowboarding. Steal time. They're probably doing it on their own, anyway, keep going. What would you do to make that better? Just tell them how much time is left. Much better. Does that make sense? And is there a subheader underneath that? No. In fact, what there is a beautiful graphic that makes me glad I opened the email. It looks like a slinky and another separator line. What it produces in terms of response is 0. What is its point on the email? At least they've got it in soft gray, right? So it sort of disappears and doesn't like stand out in your face. What's next? The snow is falling at the mountaintop. How do you think that is for an opening line? First of all, do you actually believe they don't send that email until the snow is falling at that moment? Seriously. So you've just taken, the snow is falling at the mountaintop, and that whole sentence doesn't do anything to drive me further in the email. I need something rich that changes me again from looking to seeing. Now, they say something pretty cool afterwards. Check out our live ski cam to see how the hill is looking this season. That would have been a cool subheader, wouldn't it? Underneath a great headline. And then I'd start to say, wow, this is interesting. And then it says, there's still time to make your group reservations. Special group rates are available for groups of 15 or more. Are we sending this email to groups that want 15 or more? Do you understand the negative implied message there? Almost no one does, because we look at these things with company logic instead of customer logic. Let me tell you what it really says. I'm not in a group of 15, so I don't get special rates. How exciting. I mean, really, how many people do you know book a ski trip and take 15 people? So let's have something exciting for 1% of the world, and let the other 99% fend themselves. Do you see that until we get out of our skin and see what we're saying in our, and by the way, what does learn more mean in this case? Because learn more is so vague compared to what you just promised that I could check out the live. Learn more about what? How 15 people can get a, because here it is. Special group rates are available for groups of 15 or more. Call so-and-so to book your group. Learn more. Unless this is sent only to people who come in groups of 15 or more, the whole email has just said, you're irrelevant. Does that make sense? And let me ask you another question. Am I helping? Are you learning from thinking about the emails differently like this, or am I just hurting the feelings of the person that submitted it? Because I'm not trying to. I desperately want to learn something together in the last few minutes that we have. Is this making sense to you? Good, because I have almost no time left. According to the big clock, I have 46 seconds left. How can I make 44 seconds good? Let's do another one. Go on, quick. Guys, in 37 seconds, do we have another one to show? Can you show me another one? You're killing me here, okay? You're killing me. There we go. All right, somebody, very fast. 27 seconds. What's one change you'd make? Hand up. Very quick, hand up. It's true, you probably need to read it. Yes, sir.
Get rid of the call to action button up top.
The call to action up top is confusing. Yes, somebody else. What's another thing you'd change? Just lift your hand. Right over there, yes.
I have no idea who this is from.
You have no idea
no
who this is
company
from.
Logo.
Connect
nothing.
sales and service for a seamless experience. Oh, that's a psychic network. See their heads and anybody can see that. You need to, pay more attention. All right? And it's much easier to connect. By the way, have you ever noticed that your sales team actually is working on some sort of psychic network? All right, so let's go back. Scroll down. What else would you do? There's more below in case you're bored. All right, scroll back up. Tell me something else you might try. Right here, yes.
The infographic, what's on it? You don't know what benefit.
There's no description of the infographic or its benefit to you. It's a vague statement. It starts with a good word, get. But why would I want it? Instead of the wasted space you got up there with a psychic network, maybe you could show me a piece of a cool infographic that makes me want to click through and learn more. Good point. Somebody else. Somebody else.
Eliminate the second call to action to watch the video. Either get the infographic or watch the video.
Yeah, is this an email or landing page, guys? It's starting to try to do a lot of things, isn't it? The more things you get me to do, the less likely I'm going to do the one I'm supposed to. Did you hear me? Multiple options typically divide response, and they diminish it. One more thing. Here's what I'd like to do in my last... Oh, look, I got 1 minute, 22 seconds left. Suddenly, popped right on. Thank you, John. You're not getting a raise, but that was a great idea. John, while I'm talking in a minute, get ready to pull up. See that logo? That's the link to register for the clinic to see the experiment we're going to run with the page that we optimized together. Audience, I want to go back to my email, though, John. Take me back to the email. The one we were looking at. Joey, John, the one we're optimizing. They're supposed to do this. What they're doing here is supposed to be the last slide, so I'm the one messing them up. Are you guys taking me back to the email we were looking at? Oh, wait. Look what John's done. This is why he slowed me down. Look, there's the original one. How many of you think the email on the right might have a better chance of getting a response than the one on the left? And they're not done yet, but they've been incorporating your feedback to build a new version to test. And I'm certain that we'll refine it even further before it goes live. But isn't that sort of cool? What's even cooler is when you get the data back and measure its impact and the differential, and you use that to learn something about your customer that you can apply everywhere else in the business. I think we'll stop with this because it's the most important thing. May I just say this to all of you with the last remnants of my voice? And this is sort of transcend this session. First of all, would you like to have more of these live op sessions? We talk about this in upcoming conferences. Is this good for you? Just give me some instant feedback. Good. It's helpful, it really is. Because, we've done them quite a bit, and you shouldn't be doing it next year because you did it last year. That's a sure sign of just a following rote, and you should be doing it because your customers continue to want it. You should be innovating and learning, and I want to stay sort of tuned to how you're thinking. Setting that aside, here's the last thing I want to say. I want to thank you. I know there's another session you're breaking up, but this is my last chance on the podium. Last night, I met so many of you. Throughout the day, I've been meeting different people here. It matters, number one, when you're brave enough to come up and talk to us and our different leaders, and it matters that you take such precious time out of your schedule to come here. And, I know people say thank you because we're supposed to. It's courtesy, but in my case, I'm not saying it because it's something I should do. It really matters a lot to build these relationships. We're trying to transform how people think. Mech Labs and MarketingSherpa are part of a 50-year plan, and we want to build an institution that endures 100 years from now. And our real product is transformation. I want to transform how you think, and I want to see you transform your organizations, and I want to see you that lead to transformed results. And you know how that works? One person at a time. We talk about the fact that people don't buy from companies, people buy from people. Well, listen, the relationship you have isn't with MarketingSherpa or Mech Labs, it's with Pamela. And it's with Daniel and John Powell and Tim Kachuriak and each other and myself. Let's build a community of marketers who care about learning deeply what we need to understand regarding our customers. Let's value wisdom over data. And let's pay the price of deep reflection and ask why more often than we ask how. And let's do something that changes the people around us and the way we do business. Thank you for attending this event, and I look forward to seeing you and others. Thank you very much.